Today I want to speak about one particular book that I read a couple of weeks back. I heard about this book during the budget session of the parliament that was just concluded recently, when Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi mentioned or suggested, I would say educated certain youth leaders of the opposition party to improve upon their historical knowledge by referring to this particular book. I immediately went to Amazon and I bought the book immediately, and good that I did because in 2 days it is out of stock. Right now it's not even available on Amazon. And the book here is JFK's Forgotten Crisis, Tibet, the CIA and the Sino Indian War, written by the author Bruce Reidel. As a person who is quite passionate about military history, I thought I had a fairly good understanding of India's entire military history, at least from 1948 till recently. I was for sure, I was very well aware that after the 1962 war, where India was soundly defeated by China, US had had assisted India with military aid. US military assistance had bolstered Indian army, which led to Indian army defending itself very effectively against Pakistan in 1965. I was also quite aware of a lot of covert missions and close cooperation between CIA and the research and analysis wing. For example, in monitoring the Chinese nuclear blast and nuclear testing in Lopnur in Xinjiang, and also the creation of Establishment 22, now known as a Special Frontier Force. So, again, the Lopnur thing, there's a ticking time bomb that is still there in Himalayas. So apparently, one of the sensors that were placed through a mountaineering, Indo-US mountaineering expedition, that sensor is a nuclear power device, and that was lost in an avalanche. So right now, it is somewhere hidden beneath the ice and snow, and there's fear that due to global warming, it could come out into the air, and it's a nuclear catastrophe waiting to happen. Special Frontier Force, as some of you might know, is a special branch of Indian military which is comprised of ethnic Tibetan refugees who moved over to India. It's a military force that is specifically created to infiltrate into Tibet and to destroy Chinese army. Several round of border talks, which led to a peaceful situation along the line of actual control, was predicated on the Special Frontier Force to be kept at least 50 kilometers away from Chinese border. China, the People's Liberation Army were that scared of Special Frontier Force. Again, CIA played a big hand in Establishment 22 in setting up Special Frontier Force, and there were also a lot of aerial surveillance flights that used to be conducted from an RNW air base in Odisha. US pilots and US spy planes used to operate from them. These were things which I knew about. But this book, it gave me some revelationary new information that I had never heard about, and I was surprised that I had never heard about it. By reading this book, I got a context for it. So the time is October and November of 1962. There were two parallel global crises happening at the same time. Both John F. Kennedy managed quite well. One was the Cuban Missile Crisis, the other, the Sino Indian War. Both happened at the same time, not through coordination. Soviet Union was not coordinating with China. The Sino-Soviet split had already started by that time. But as things happen, I always say, देने वाला जब भी देता चप्पड़ फाड़ के. Both terrible crises happened at the same time. The Cuban Missile Crisis was the more critical for US, so that's where John F. Kennedy paid his most attention. But he did not want to ignore. He knew that the Sino-Indian conflict is also super critical, for which he entrusted his ambassador to India, John Kenneth Galbraith, to run the diplomacy on his behalf, and Mr. Galbraith did that phenomenally well. While US kept on supporting India from the start, Nehru government was swallowing a lot of bitter pills. First of all, from 47 till 62, Nehru and especially his acerbic defense minister V.K. Krishna Menon, they lost no opportunities to pontificate towards Americans, to pontificate towards the West, while also ignoring Soviet excesses in Hungary, for instance. So there was no love lost between them. But then the collapse of Hindi Chini Bye Bye happened in spectacular terms when China invaded India. The sequence of tragedies, the sequences of blunders, the Himalayan blunders, if I may, were only exacerbated by such incompetent people such as P.N. Thapar and B.M. Kaur. I don't know if they are worthy of being addressed to with any military rank because I don't know. I haven't heard any great things about their military capabilities, just their bureaucratic capabilities. Thanks to all of them, India was in a precarious situation. The crux of this book is, in fact, about two letters that were sent by Nehru to Kennedy on the 19th of November 1962. The first letter was sent in the morning. In that letter, Nehru requested US for immediate assistance. We need more weapons. We need more support. We need you to actively help us right now. Increase the aid being sent. The second letter was sent a few hours later as the situation in Northeast Frontier Agency became more better known. On 19th of November, by midday, news reports came to Indian government that Arunachal had fallen. Chinese had crossed the Bomtela Pass. There was no Indian military unit standing in the way between Chinese forces and Assam. It was a straight run to Brahmaputra and the whole Seven Sisters. Indian army were in a rout thanks to their brilliant theatre commander B.M. Kaur, who had flown back to Delhi for his health purposes. There was another Chinese reserve formation poised just north of Doklam, the famous Doklam of 2017, the tri-junction between India, China, and Bhutan. They were poised over there to rapidly cut into India and cut off the chicken neck at Siliguri corridor. It was a dire situation. It was an existential crisis level situation for India on the evening of 19th November, and that's when they sent this letter to two people. One to John F. Kennedy, the President of US, and then to Harold Macmillan, the Prime Minister of UK. The content was same. We need you to deploy your air forces to India to defend Indian airspace. Indian Air Force was able to conduct retaliatory offensive airstrikes into PLA territory, so, People's Republic of China. But when Indian Air Force does the strike, we don't have the capability to defend our cities against a Chinese counterattack. So India basically requested US and UK to send in their air forces to defend India against China. In short, Nehru requested Kennedy and Macmillan to join the war against China. In the revolutionary zeal of their times, Kennedy agreed. Kennedy, Harold Macmillan, and I forgot who is the Prime Minister of Australia, the US, UK, and Australia, they committed to send their air forces to India. Not just a few planes or so, not even a few squadrons. Around 350 to 400 aircraft were requested by Nehru for deployment into India. And US, UK, and Australia, they said, yes, we will send them. The next day, the 20th of November, Ambassador Averell Harriman, a kind of troubleshooter for Kennedy, was sent off to India with an advanced military delegation to identify the logistics of it. That is, Okay, which are the air bases where we need these air forces to come in? What is the logistics support? Where do the people stay? Again, 400 fighter planes means at least 4,000, 8,000 people to maintain that air force. It was basically surrendering of Indian defense to US, UK, and Australia. India was in a situation like that, and India asked the help, and US, UK, and Australia they obliged. On the 21st of November 1962, China suddenly declared ceasefire. Their objective since 50s was accomplished. They wanted Aksai Chin, they got Aksai Chin. They humiliated India in Northeast, so they withdrew back. Their game to establish their supremacies as the overlords of Asia was accomplished. They wanted to humiliate Nehru and humiliate India so that India would not dare to speak against China for the next half century. And they thought their mission is accomplished. So they withdrew. But the delegation was still here in India. US and Indian leadership, both leaderships wanted to continue the momentum that was built during this crisis because Nehru realized he cannot be isolationist anymore. He knew that Hindi Chini bye bye does not work. He has a belligerent enemy to the north and to his west, and to his east. He was surrounded by enemies. You had East Pakistan, West Pakistan, and the People's Republic of China. He saw the sense. He suffered the humiliation of having trusted China. So they decided to continue the momentum and build a lasting military relationship. And that's when Harold Macmillan, the Prime Minister of UK, he thought, let's use this opportunity to blackmail India. Let's tie this military aid and this potential military alliance to the Kashmir question. Now, Nehru was humiliated, but he also knew that if Kashmir was discussed at this time, then the people of India will never forgive him. So, very currently, Nehru said, hell no. We are not allowing this to be linked with Kashmir. Again, a military alliance that was based on friendship with US was scuttled by pigheadedness by UK. And who suffered? Everybody suffered. Not just India. US, UK, China, Pakistan, everybody has suffered because of those mistakes. It's quite interesting how close we had come to position that is currently enjoyed by Israel. I would not want India to be compared to a Japan or a South Korea or a Germany who had to surrender their sovereignty as a price to pay for alliance with US. No, look at Israel. India and Israel, we share the same psyche. We are surrounded by enemies. We are the only democracies in a sea of dictatorships. I'm sure we could have been in Israel Pro Max if not for Harold Macmillan. That momentum that was lost in the first months of 1963, it was about to be resumed again by late 1963. But then 4 days before the discussion with Kennedy was supposed to happen regarding the alliance with India, Kennedy was assassinated. Momentum gone. By the time Lyndon B. Johnson was instructed and briefed in on this potential alliance, in 1964, Nehru passed away. Then it was Lal Bahadur Shastri who came in. As he was being briefed in all these things, US started focusing more on Vietnam. The momentum was lost, and finally, LBS started his alliance with Soviets. History took its place. But just interesting how This information, that fact, the events, those two letters on 19 November 1962, I never heard it mentioned anywhere in the world, in any of the books that I've read till now. And the reason for that is these letters were declassified only in 2010 by the John F. Kennedy Presidential Library. Till then, it was classified. Subsequent governments in both US and India, they have denied the existence of these letters. So no wonder I never read about it in any of the historical books. This information came out only in 2010. So it gives us a great level of perspective on what could have been or the missed chances. I don't blame Nehru at all for seeking US help. When we are in trouble, we need to do by hook, line, and sinker whatever we do. We need to survive. We need to win. We'll make a deal with the devil also. I have nothing to criticize Nehru about that. But the people who use his non-aligned credentials to protest against any real political interest, ah, how they have eggs on their face right now. All those people who spoke against the nuclear deal that Manmohan Singh and George W. Bush signed, all those commies who hate any kind of rapprochement between India and US, please learn your history. And all the Congress people who are saying that no more is surrendering to US, dude, Nehru surrendered. Nehru surrendered India's sovereignty to US and UK, man. It was just lucky that China stopped its war. Otherwise, their air force would have been based out of India. That would have been the real loss of sovereignty. Even worse than loss of Aksai Chin or loss of NEFA. So please, have some context. And please, read this book. If it comes back on Amazon, please read the book.